Day one of the Big East men's and women's track and field championships wrapping up in Geneva, Ohio. Matt Schumacher, Johnny Soper with you. And Johnny, your impressions from day one?
Well, if you look on the men's side, we have a really tightly bunched group. And so I'm really looking forward to tomorrow when the teams will look to separate themselves. And just really enjoyed some of the finals today. We had in the women's pole vault a sophomore who's now a Big East champion, back-to-back years, winning it her freshman year as well. That's extremely impressive to come in right away and really dominate the event. And that goes to Ashley Preston from Villanova. And when you look on the women's side, you know, it's anyone's race. Marquette's up there. Villanova's up there. You know, Villanova, who's dominated the championships over the past couple of years on both the men's and the women's side. On the women's side, they're a little banged up this year. You know, there's an opening for another school to step in and make a run and try and snatch the title from the Wildcats. So tomorrow is going to be fascinating to see how things shake out.
Speaking of Villanova, Nick Steele, one of the best in the country, came in with a time of 3:58 in the mile, and he cruised across the finish line to qualify for the final tomorrow. You know, everywhere you look, no matter if it's cross country, indoor championships, outdoor championships, the Big East continues to elevate itself in terms of its competition. We saw that today. These finals were not easy to make in the men's or women's mile or in any of the distance events for that matter. Meanwhile, over in the pole vault, one of the 11 finals that we had on the track and in the field throughout the course of the day, it was Wade Walder winning the pole vault for Butler. Meanwhile, in the women's 60 hurdles, your champion and your runner-up last year no longer in the field this season. So that leaves the door open. You talked about it in the open today before our show, Johnny. 13 returning champions from last year, which is more than we had going into the 2019 championships. And yet, in some of the events that have been dominated by one individual year after year after year, those spots are now open.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sure, 13 returning champions, but that's not a great number either. You know, there's certainly plenty of spots for different athletes to step up. But what's fascinating to me and what I've enjoyed watching here on day one is just the competitiveness. Really, as you just mentioned in the Big East, and you watch these athletes over the course of this championship and really over the course of the entire season competing so hard against one another, competing sometimes against their own teammates. And it's just so much fun to watch. And one of those guys who I really enjoyed watching today and had a chance to speak with was Ewan Makepeace from Butler. I mean, just talk about calm, cool, and collected. This guy shows up and he means business. And he takes care of business, you know, and he was once again the 5K champion. And he'll have a chance, and I don't know what the stats are, but he'll have a chance this spring to win the outdoor 5K championship. When has the last time that a track athlete has won the cross-country championship, the indoor 5K, and the outdoor 5K? And he won it twice last year, too.
Yeah, you got to go digging through the record books. Meanwhile, on the men's 400, lots of competition here. A number of returning finalists from a season ago. I think the surprise was Jarrell Terry of DePaul, freshman coming in. He had run 48.28, was just phenomenal in Heat 2. And then right here, Lawrence Leak, returning champion from a season ago. He's trying to come back and go for back-to-back titles in the men's indoor. That will be a really fun race on the final day. You've got Leak, you've got Terry, and, of course, who could forget Henry Larkin, who was just sensational as a freshman last year in outdoors. Over in the women's 60-meter dash, a very tough final to make going into the championship tomorrow. But there is one woman that the rest of the field is chasing. That is Trudy Ann Williamson, who's going for a three-peat in the women's 60-meter dash.
Yeah, no question about it. And she was also, you know, last year's 200 champion as well. And you see a lot of that in this meet, in this indoor championship. But I'll tell you what, there's going to be challengers tomorrow. There is no question about it. No race is so wrapped up. There may be a couple where you have total dominance, but there are plenty of chances tomorrow to see new champions, new individual champions in this Big East Indoor Championship.
Is this the 800? Meanwhile, in the women's 800, Villanova, who has been so dominant in years past, they graduated a lot of people from last year, plus a couple of transfers. So Villanova coming into this championship, some new faces emerging on the women's side, in particular in the 800, the mile, 3K, 5K, and in the DMR today. Villanova, which we'll see in a moment, raced with 4 true freshmen in the DMR. Meanwhile, Butler had a great showing, ranked 3rd in the women's team standings after day one. Their men are also ranked 3rd in the team standings after day one, with tons of points obviously left on the board for tomorrow. Reich Padal of Georgetown in the 800, going for back-to-back titles. He advanced safely into the championship tomorrow, and Georgetown's going to come with it in that men's 800. I think of the finals tomorrow, the men's and the women's 800 could really be a fun race to watch.
Yeah.
And it was a tough final to make, especially on the men's side. You watch this race right here. These guys were running neck and neck the entire way for a full 800 meters.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, you just look at the times of the prelims. I mean, you're talking about tenths of a second, hundredths of a second, even separating these runners. Fascinating to watch. I think you're right. That's the race, really, for me at least, that stands out. That is going to be, I think, just so close, because you have these times in the prelims that where maybe they're qualifying times, you look like, okay, maybe there's some separation there. These times in the prelims, they're all neck and neck with one another. It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Well, I think the women's sprints, too, tomorrow, particularly this 200, which we're watching a recap of the prelims. There were 5 heats of the prelim, top 8 times advanced, so the heat winners weren't even guaranteed spots like you see maybe in years past. But in the 200, it's Trudy Ann Williamson again who is going for back-to-back titles. So she's won 2 straight 60s indoors. She's trying to win her 2nd straight 200 indoors. She's also won the 100 outdoors and finished 2nd in the 200 outdoors last year. She is just racking up medals for the Villanova Wildcats, but she will have contenders. And one of those contenders is Kirsten Walker, who won the 400 last year, coming back for DePaul, finishing 2nd in this heat, but will be in the mix tomorrow. Leah Anderson, too, who won that heat of that 200 that you just saw on your screen, she's also in the final tomorrow for the 2 and the 4. So you've got Walker, you've got Jop for St. John's, you've got Trudy Ann Williamson. That's going to be a really fun situation to watch unfold. The women's 200 and 400, where you've got so many athletes trying to do the double. And really, you could say the same thing on the men's side. Now that we're watching the men's 200-meter prelims, Lawrence Leak ran in these, and you also had Adam Nelson running them for DePaul, who was the 60-meter finalist last year for the Blue Demons, won the 100 outdoors for DePaul last year. So the men's 200 will be a big area of contention in terms of men's team points. You've got Georgetown's Lawrence Leak, who qualified with the fastest time of 21:58. Here is Leak running in lane 3, just so good. I mean, there are not many guys throughout the country that can do what he does on a regular basis. Ran the 400 prelim, the 200 prelim, ran in the DMR. He's been a spectacular athlete for Georgetown over the years. What's next? And this is Adam Nelson right here for DePaul, running out of lane 5. So solid. So he's into the final in 2 events, the 60 and the 200, looking to score big points for the Blue Demons, who have been atop the podium on the team side in years past. Meanwhile, one of our finals today on the track, Abby Wheeler, finally winning her first gold. Johnny, you had a chance to talk to her afterwards, and she was so complimentary of the conference. Now she sits atop the throne.
Well, it's clear that, after years of hard work, just complete elation from her finally sitting atop that podium or standing atop that podium. And I mean, you could just imagine for these athletes, I just talked to the pole vault champion who's won it now freshman, sophomore year. Here's an athlete who's worked so hard, who's come so close, and finally reaches that mountaintop at the end of her career. And it's so much. It's gratifying to watch. It's fun to watch, and you can just see the way that these people compete and the way that they respect each other is fun to watch.
In the men's 5K, incredible. We had Casey Comer, we had Ewan Makepeace, Andrew Marston, all in the mix. All guys who have won multiple Big East titles. It was that man, Ewan Makepeace, going for back-to-back. And you talked about what he's trying to do. Kind of go for the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
On the distance side, he's won cross-country this year. He's won indoor. Now he goes for outdoor gold in the 5K. Then Providence finally winning a gold in the DMR, dethroning the Wildcats.
Yeah, well, Makepeace. I mean, you talk to Makepeace, it's like, yeah, go out there, focus, win. It's like this guy is automatic.
Machine-like.
It really is machine-like. And, I mean, talk about dominance in the conference.
Yeah, no doubt.
Here's a guy who he used the word reset. He said after every race, you just reset. And for him to have done what he's done in the conference is truly impressive. But you're right, Providence finally standing atop the first place stand. It's good to see them on top as well.
Meanwhile, Villanova goes for the three-peat in the men's DMR to close out day one of our championships. Should be a really fun final day from Geneva.